So what is the firmament of heaven? Well, in Genesis 1, verse 6, it says, "And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day." And then in Genesis 1, verse 14, it says, "And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so." And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. So there was waters, and he divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And he said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters." So we have to go back to Genesis 1, verse 1, and go from there to learn about this darkness. "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." So that makes sense, because in Psalm 18, verse 9, it says, "He bowed the heavens also, and came down, and darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub, and did fly, yea, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness his secret place. His pavilion round about him were dark waters, and thick clouds of the skies." So that makes sense along with Genesis 1, verse 2, where it says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters," because it said that darkness was under his feet. So God's in heaven above that darkness, but it says that darkness is his secret place, and it says his pavilion round about him were dark waters, and thick clouds of the skies. So when he made the firmament, he said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." These are dark waters. And in Genesis 1, verse 3, it says, "And God said, Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day." So what this tells me is that when he made the firmament was a place of darkness, dark waters, and thick clouds of the skies. That was why he made lights for the firmament, to give light upon the earth. So that was what the sun, moon, and stars were for, was to give light upon the earth. It says, "And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth." And it was so. So there's lights in a place of darkness. Without the sun, moon, and stars, and planets, I guess, the sky would just be darkness. There would be no light up there. So it would be a place of darkness, the firmament. So that's interesting to look at it that way. In a book called The Vision of Paul, Paul writes in verse 11, And the angel answered and said unto me, Follow me, and I will show you the place of the just, where they are led when they are deceased. And after these things, taking thee into the abyss, I will show thee the souls of sinners, and what sort of place they are led into when they have deceased. And I proceeded back after the angel, and he led me into heaven. And I looked back upon the firmament, and I saw in the same place power, and there was there oblivion, which deceives and draws down to itself the hearts of men, and the spirit of detraction, and the spirit of fornication, and the spirit of madness, and the spirit of insolence. And there were there the princes of vices. These I saw under the firmament of heaven. And again I looked back, and I saw angels without mercy, having no pity, whose countenance was full of madness, and their teeth sticking out beyond the mouth. Their eyes shone like the morning star of the east, and from the hairs of their head sparks of fire went out, or from their mouth. And I asked the angel, saying, Sir, who are those? And the angel answered and said unto me, These are those who are destined to the souls of the impious in the hour of need, who did not believe that they had the Lord for their helper, nor hoped in him. And verse 13 says, And I said to the angel, I wished to see the souls of the just and of sinners going out of the world. And the angel answered and said unto me, Look down upon the earth. And I looked down from heaven upon the earth, and saw the whole world. And it was nothing in my sight, and I saw the sons of men as though they were not, and a wanting. And I wondered and said to the angel, Is this the greatness of men? And the angel answered and said unto me, It is. And these are they who do evil from morning till evening. And I looked and saw a great cloud of fire spread over the whole world. And I said to the angel, What is this, my Lord? And he said to me, This is injustice stirred up by the princes of sinners. And Isaiah had a vision similar to this in the Ascension of Isaiah, chapter 6, verse 9. It says, And we ascended to the firmament, I and he, and there I saw Samuel and his hosts, and there was great fighting therein, and the angels of Satan were envying one another. It really is starting to sound like the firmament is a place of evil. Or under the firmament, maybe? The darkness upon the face of the deep could possibly be underneath the firmament. But he divided those waters. So it's in those waters. There's waters above it and under it. So I hope you're ready for the next part. The next part can be pretty deep because it gets into another topic which you might not think it would. I've learned that there's a place called Mystery Babylon in the spiritual realm, and it's a place where evil spirits are imprisoned. And that's in Revelation 18 verse 2. It says, He cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. In Revelation 17 verse 3, John goes into the Spirit. It says, So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So you know the character in Revelation that comes out of the bottomless pit? The beast that comes up out of the bottomless pit? Where do you think it's coming out from? And a few more passages that speak about the firmament and the place of darkness that I think we all can see with our eyes when we look up the darkness that God put the sun, moon, and stars into to give light upon the earth, that darkness. Enoch chapter 18, starting in verse 9, it says, "And I saw a flaming fire, and beyond these mountains is a region the end of the great earth, where the heavens were completed. And I saw a deep abyss, with columns of heavenly fire, and among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure, alike toward the heights and toward the depth. And beyond that abyss I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. And there was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was a waste and horrible place. I saw there 7 stars, like great burning mountains. And to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said, This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire are they which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. And he was wroth with them, and bound them till the time when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years. So there's a prison for stars and the host of heaven, and that prison is a waste and horrible place. It's beyond an abyss. And notice that Enoch said, I saw there 7 stars like great burning mountains. Like great burning mountains. And then in Enoch chapter 21, he says basically the same thing. And he says in verse 3, And there I saw 7 stars of the heaven bound together in it, like great mountains, and burning with fire. So twice there, he's referring to these stars, these 7 stars, he's calling them mountains, and mountains burning with fire. And that caught my attention because in Revelation 8, verse 8, John writes, And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And a third part of the sea became blood, and a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. So that to me sounds like one of those great mountains burning with fire, one of those 7 wandering stars, which we call planets, is at some point in time going to be cast into the sea, and it'll be a bad thing. And there's another thing about that, him calling them mountains. He saw 7 stars like great burning mountains. Well, that caught my attention in Revelation 17. In verse 9, it says, And here is the mind which hath wisdom, the 7 heads. And that's talking about the 7 heads on the beast. It says, The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. To me, I'm thinking that this is talking about space, where the planets are, where the sun, moon, and stars are, in the firmament, a place of darkness. And what's interesting here is in Revelation 17, verse 18, because John saw a woman, it was a mystery Babylon, she was a harlot. It says, I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. So she was sitting on a scarlet-colored beast. And in verse 18 it says, And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Babylon the Great. What's interesting to me about that is in Revelation 12, John sees a different woman. Verse 1, And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. What's interesting to me about that is that's the same place that we just learned this other woman is is in that place of darkness. So there's Babylon the Great, and John sees this vision of a great wonder of a different woman that was travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And then he also saw a dragon waiting to devour her child. And he saw that up in heaven too. This is the time we live in, I believe. And the dragon that we see up in the firmament is Satan. That's how Satan has manifested. And this world is believing in Babylon. So all I can say is, come out of her, my people. Don't believe that that's a place for us. That's God's secret place. It's also a place of evil. Evil spirits are bound there until judgment. In Jude, verse 13, it says, raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. That would be space. So, what is the firmament? It's a lot of things. But one of the things that I learned that it is it's a city that's making the world drunk. It's deceiving the world. It's defiling mankind. And actually in Enoch chapter 19, it talks about the angels that came down in Genesis 6. And this is in the same place of the waste and horrible place where those 7 stars were bound until judgment. And he says, and Uriel said to me, here shall stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind, and shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. So come out of her, my people. That's what I'm learning. Don't partake in her sins or the wrath that's going to come from them, because her sins have reached up to heaven, and I know that God is remembering those iniquities. Thank you for listening.